Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Michigan football with Dennis 50, and I'm Jim Scarcelli, and we are fired up. We're talking Michigan football, a little bit of Michigan basketball. It is a great time of year to be a college football player. Got the spring game right around the corner. And Denny, as a former player, there's no greater day in the calendar year for a football player than getting the spring game over and done, and you've got time to just be a normal guy and enjoy summer vacation a little bit before you get back into the fire. How you doing, Big D?
I'm doing great. You know, it's there's a lot of reasons to say today is a great day. One of them, it kicks off the Michigan spring game week, and I know, Scar, you're in Southeast Michigan. It's like 66 degrees outside. It's been unseasonably cold around here. One of the greatest golf tournaments that I've ever seen in my life took place over the weekend with Rory winning the Masters. Certainly the best Masters in 6 years, but from start to finish, it was awesome. The Tigers are in first place. The Pistons are going to be in the playoffs and taking on the Knicks on Saturday. What a Saturday it's going to be. So, yeah, go ahead. Anything you want, man. I got a big smile on my face. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to talk about. I mean, we're can't wait to look at this film. I'm about 50-50 whether I'm going to be in Ann Arbor Saturday. I know you're going to be there. I know Jerry's talking about going up. But I can't wait to see the film, see it on TV. They're going to probably put it on in the following week, but if I don't get up there, but I really want to see, what kind of changes we're going to see. One of the biggest things I want to see, Denny, is I first want to see the quarterback. We all want to see what kind of quarterback we're going to have. Is Mikey Keene, is he playing? Is he healthy? And then how is Underwood looking? So we want to take a look at him. We want to see what everybody can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take a good look if I'm seeing any kind of change with Chip Lindsey. Sharon Moore is a pounded guy. He's been around. He saw us win championships with tight ends and pounding and physical and smash. So I'm looking for subtle tweaks if I can see anything in the spring game. Probably not. And then defensively, Denny, so that's what I'm looking for. Quarterback play, anything I can recognize with Chip that might appear to be different. And then I'm taking a good look at our inside D-line because I've said it. I think our edge are going to be as good as we've ever been. Our linebackers are going to be good. Secondary good. I want to know, are we going to have the tip of the spear, as old Minter and McDonald used to call it, with our 1 technique, 3 technique? And we've hit the jackpot there with Hinton and Mozzie and Graham and Grant. And I'm just hoping that's what I'm looking for too at the spring game. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think, Trey Williams, big number 0, is going to be right next to Rayshon Benny. If those two guys are healthy and available, I would expect them to be the 2 guys inside. And, yeah, I would just follow up with you, piggyback. Bryce Underwood, I saw M Go Blue had video of Jaden Davis and Bryce Underwood throwing the ball. I mean, Bryce Underwood, if you're just looking at technique and just the delivery, it is something that you would say just is picture perfect, the way he throws the football. Davis does not throw it what you would say is fundamentally sound or just this perfect throwing motion. He looks like he's throwing the ball in from the outfield to home plate, and it's a pretty long release that he has, but it's not. There's been plenty of quarterbacks that don't have the prettiest throwing motion, and they've been effective. I'd like to see it under some game conditions. I have the picture, the bird's eye view of Michigan Stadium up, Scar. And if you look down in the lower left corner, that is Stadium in Maine. I have all these arrows pointed. That is where the Maize and Blue Review will be. If you want to come on by and say hi, we will be at the Michigan War Memorial Eagle at 11:15. At 11:30, they start warming up. So, and of course, the game is at 12. But if you're there early enough, I'll be out there at 11:15. If Scar is out there, maybe he'll stop by. The Memorial Eagle there's a picture of it. You can't miss it. And again, if you're taking a look at the bird's eye view, just inside the gates at the southwest corner of the stadium is where we'll be at 11:15. So just something to keep in mind if you're out there and you're like, hey, where's the Maize and Blue review? Well, now you know.
Sounds like a good deal, Danny. I tell you, speaking of, I've watched, Jaden Davis throw the football, and I never was big on that, slinging it. Danny, I was a free agent with the Raiders back in 1986. I didn't make the team, but I was there till the final cut. But anyway, Jim Plunkett was there. I couldn't believe how Jim Plunkett threw the football. I mean, he was like slinging Sammy ball, man, just from the side. If you take a good look at how he threw the football, accurate. So some of that stuff, I know everybody likes to have that guy over the top. That's how coaches teach it now, and they've been teaching it for a long time. But obviously, there are some coaches that don't really make a big deal of it. But Danny, there's some other things going on that we want to get into. I'm looking at some of the quotes from some of the players to try to determine and decipher just what the heck, what is going on. So here was a statement from Fred Moore. Fred Moore talked about more stuff. I like more stuff. Those are my beliefs as an offensive coach, is that you're really, really good at a foundational stuff. We run our gap scheme, we run our zone. That's what we do. We hang our hat on that, but you do the shifting, you do the motions, you do stuff to fool people. And I think when we had good success offensively, obviously we had better quarterback play, but you got to constantly try to do things to fool the defense. So he talked about more stuff. And the other thing that Fred Moore talked about was the emphasis on a vertical threat. I was pounding the table for it last year. I know it's not something you want to do as a coach often, is throw the bomb. But as a guy who coached defense, if I'm seeing nothing but runs or short passes on first down, it really helps me out as a defensive coach. So I think you got to let it rip every now and then on first down, even on your side of the field. A lot of coaches don't like to do it. I think Jim didn't like to do it unless he was near the 50-yard line, Harbaugh. But Fred Moore talked about more stuff, vertical threat, and more throwing it on first down. So those are some thoughts there. What do you take on that?
Yeah, I think you do things like play to the strength of your team. And last year they didn't have a quarterback that could throw the ball down the field. And really, JJ didn't have the ability to connect downfield to the last game in 2022. He was pretty good in 2023, but it's like the early 80s Whitey Herzog Cardinals. They weren't going to go out and pound the ball over the fence and hit all these home runs. They were a fast team that got on base and they stole a lot. So you play to your strength. And if Bryce Underwood can throw the ball 50, 60, 70 yards and he's accurate, well, then you can be a smash team and then once in a while go out and punch them in the mouth with a big score and whip the ball down the field. Everyone likes it. It's exciting. It gets everyone going. So if you have it in your bag, I don't think that they're going to be a air raid type offense. But if you have the ability to hit players, and you need the quarterback obviously, but you need the receivers, and I think they've upgraded without seeing them. I think they've upgraded in both quarterback and receiver in terms of being able to hit some home runs.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're going to see much better receiver play. And hey, Antoine talks about Bernie Kosar. Antoine, I played against Bernie Kosar, and you're absolutely right. He was a guy slinging it from the sidearm, and he was a hell of a couldn't move, but we beat them. They were number one ranked team in the country, Antoine. They came into Ann Arbor. We beat them. How about this, Denny? You got Soup Campbell, my old teammate. He told Bellamy, hey, listen, we got to decorate this receiver room. So he's got some of that stuff is important. He's got some pictures of the old timers, Braylon Edwards, Anthony Carter, Breston, some of those guys. Denny, when I was playing, our coaches talked all the time about the past to let you know that you're playing for your teammates, you're playing for your coaches, you're playing for back home and all this other stuff, but you're also playing for the guys that played in front of you. And it matters. It's an impact. So I saw that from Soup, that he talked to Bellamy. So they got the receiver room. They got some of the old timers up there. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think it comes back to playing to your strengths again. Michigan, when it comes down to the whole enchilada, you could try to rank, well, this school's got, stadium and, champion, whatever else. Michigan's not taking a back seat to anybody. And when it comes to history and the stadium and the uniforms and the school, you should. Yeah, if you're there, look to the past. I mean, you've been in those halls. You look over there, the pictures, you can spend hours in there. They got, 3,000 footballs that are sitting over there with all the W's they have. They have more wins than everyone. You look over there at the All-Americans, you've got more pictures than, you can imagine, and you just look over there. I mean, it's like going to the Hall of Fame. So, yeah, play to your strengths, and that's a great history, maybe the greatest history in all of college football. So that's a smart move by Sue.
Yeah, just you're always looking to motivate your players, and it's just you're letting them know that you're part of something that's bigger than just what's here in front of you with this team. You're part of a tradition. I thought Rod Moore was going to be practicing. I saw he's not practicing. That's a little discouraging, but hopefully he'll be up and ready to roll. Mangum, the transfer from Michigan State, I loved him when I saw him play at Michigan State. I thought he was a really good player, physical kid. Apparently, they talked about him. I read somewhere on our website where he had some good scrimmages. He had a big scrimmage, bunch of physical tackles. Coaches are high on him. So he got dinged up a little bit. I'm going out, Denny. You're going to see Mangum. I think he's a physical, tough kid. He's going to be in the mix. I'm high on Mangum in our secondary as a safety.
Yeah, he needs to be available. I don't know if he was available at all last year. So, health, the first thing for anybody, but really for him, because, it's held him back. But if he's out there working, yeah, that would be good. They want to rotate, and without having Rod Moore, although he's expected to be back, talking about Rod Moore in fall camp and even in the summer phase. But yeah, go out there and, there's a chance. Brandon Hillman right now sitting there, Zeke Berry, they're playing different guys. All of them seem like from listening to the coaches and the players, Brandon Hillman's a safety, but they've been putting him up close and trying him out at nickel. They've been trying everyone out at nickel. They've been trying everybody out at deep safety, and then they're interchanging the corners and the safeties and doing all of that. Now, that's a good question for you, Scar, that I wonder. It sounds great. Hey, versatility, being it, but then it comes down to, well, do you have, if you are a corner, and how about just work there if that's your best? And so I don't know which one it is.
You want to, Denny, great question, and I understand it as a coach. Versatility gives you what Wink wants to do. Wink, Minter, McDonald. You want to bring guys from all angles. You want to drop linebackers into curls and hooks and deep thirds. You in order to do all those different things, bring safeties, bring corner. You're going to ask guys to do different things. Okay, so there is a weakness to asking guys to do a lot of different things, but the strengths are that it confuses the offense. You got it. You can do things to confuse the offense. So I totally understand why Wink does it, and you just have to. You have to be smart how far you push the needle with what can a guy handle mentally. Let me just say this also about Mangum, Denny, and Hillman. Those are two guys that are really, really physical. They are physical, knock your head off. And I'm gonna say this also as a guy who coached, and me as a player too. I was really playing the best football my 5th year. And our final scrimmage before we opened up with Notre Dame, I got hurt. I was playing really good, and just playing physical, got banged up in our last scrimmage. You follow me? And I never forgot that as a coach. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is you've got a guy like Mangum and Hillman. They're really physical. You got to limit them sometimes in some of your scrimmaging as you get closer to the season, because you don't want to lose those guys to some damn scrimmage. You know what I mean? Obviously, you want to keep them sharp, but there's a fine line with, you know, how far you want to push your guys. It looks like it's like, hey, I know he can play. We're getting closer to game week, you know, the start of the season. Anyway, any thoughts on that?
I got two questions here that I think are better than any thoughts that I have. Urabi is talking about positions that they should go after before the spring portal class. So they've got one more portal that's open, and already for another, I think 2 weeks, or at least around 10 days it is open. I think punter, I heard, who was it, JB Brown today said that they're going to be looking. Marlon Klein's their backup punter. So
really?
Yeah. So Hudson Hollenbach's their starting punter, the left-footed kicker, and Marlon Klein. So they'll be looking for a punter. I also think they're going to be looking for a quarterback with the uncertainty, to me, surrounding Mikey Keene. And U of M is saying, what about wide receiver? To me, it's punter and quarterback right now would be the two that I would look at.
Yeah, well, it depends on a couple things that we don't know. You know, they've watched these kids for 15 practices. We haven't. We're going to try to make a decision based on what they want to show us, and I don't know how live they're going to be. Is it going to be thud? We have to try to size that up with one scrimmage, you know, and then when can we see it, Robbie? So that's, you know, we got to decide. We have to size it up with a whole lot less than what they've seen. And then the second thing is what's available in the portal. So it's a combination of, you know, what do you think you can do better at, and then what's also in the portal. So,
yeah, good points. One thing that we do know is that we have not seen Mikey Keene. The reports are that he has not practiced at all. That's why I have quarterback high on my list.
Yeah, Danny, that's not good. Something's up there. I mean, I get it. They say he's hurt, but I think he's packing his bags, man. I think he saw that. I don't know. Maybe he's feeling. This is my prediction. He's feeling that the vibe he's getting in that quarterback room is that Bryce Underwood is the way they're going to go. So he doesn't want to be a backup. That's just my gut feeling. I'm just guessing. I don't have nothing nothing, no proof. But I think when you're in that room, you know where you stand. A player knows where he stands. Coaches, that's your job as a coach, to let everybody know, you know, where they stand. And I think that's. I think you're right. We're probably going to need a quarterback. They might go out and get one.
Yeah, and I understand Michigan coming out and saying, yeah, well, this is the injury. I understand that. I'm trying to keep that under wraps, but it does keep you out there and have you play the guessing game. Let's say, yeah, he hurt his shoulder lifting weights and he hasn't been able to practice in the spring, you know, and they're like, well, we think he's going to be okay for fall ball. I mean, that sounds like Jack Tuttle 2.0. And if I learned anything last year, and if I've learned anything watching the pros, you can never throw enough personnel at the quarterback position if you're going to get it right. And if you end up getting it right. So, yeah, if Bryce Underwood's great from day one, sure. And Jaden Davis, you know, he looks good in the spring game. They got 1-2. They might not need another guy. But you're talking about a true freshman and then a redshirt freshman. Who knows? And so having a guy with some experience that might be able to get in there and help you out, see 2024, you know, could be pretty valuable. So, yeah, my guess is that they would be looking for a QB.
Listen, I initially thought the best situation was a proven 24-game starter, Mikey Keene, Fresno State, develop Underwood, you know, like we did JJ. Initially, those were my thoughts that would be the best scenario. But you know what? There might be a better scenario. For maybe Bryce Underwood is just showing that, hey, he ain't no damn freshman. And he's showing these coaches and the rest of his team, because I heard some things on the inside that he was getting respect of the old guys. the old time, the 4th and 5th year guys were like, this kid can play. Those are the words I heard through the grapevine.
Well, there's the other
players on the team.
Yeah, if Keene bolts and they don't even look at the transfer portal at all, I mean, so that should be pretty telling. Then, oh yeah, I mean, he's just that good right now, and they feel great about it. How about this question from Antoine, who asks if Chip Lindsey's offense allows the quarterback to audible? What would you think about a 17-and-a-half-year-old audibling right out of the gate in the Michigan offense?
It all depends. Those decisions are decisions that you and I don't know, because I coached a long time, and every year you don't know just how smart your guys are going to be. Every year is different, and then you have to. Okay, I've had years where I had the smartest dude. Some of the biggest games that we ever won was because I had I had the smartest linebacker that really got us lined up and adjusted every single time. Okay, and it had nothing to do with talent. Some of the best seasons we had, you know what I mean? I had really smart kids that got us lined up perfectly. Offensively, we got lined up. We did all the right things. So the question about audibleizing, again, that's something we don't know. Those guys are seeing those kids in practice, and they know how much they can put on Underwood's plate in terms of making those kind of decisions. So let's hope that they have a lot of confidence there, man. Arabi also talked about Wink simplifying things later in the year. I think you might be right on some of that. Why we started to have success, but there was still a lot of stuff. Wink is never a sit-around guy and get you comfortable. I just think that's what I liked about McDonald, Minter, and Wink. Danny, you don't never know what they're doing. You don't know if he's bringing backers, corners, safeties, 3 deep, 2 deep, man. You don't know what he's doing. They are masters at camouflage and deception. But there might be some truth to trying to simplify things. Danny, how about a guy that I thought was going to be a player for us? I watched him on the hoof at practice a couple of years ago. Amarian Walker looks like he's in the portal. I mean, if you look at that kid on the hoof, you're like, man, you can see where he was a highly recruited kid, but he just couldn't get his footing either on offense or defense. And then McBurrows is a kid that, man, I thought he was a good tackler. He was a good rotation guy. But, you can look at a guy like McBurrows in the portal and you can say it's a bad thing. But you also have to understand it might be a good thing that Michigan has so much depth, so much talent that McBurrows, and the way the coaches talked to him, was like, listen, your chances are going to be minimized. Your clock is going to be minimized this year. And he just felt that it was better to get in the portal. So the fact that he's in the portal, I know we want to say, oh, it's a bad thing, but there might be so many good players and so much competition that he just felt it was better off leaving because he wasn't going to get much clock.
Yeah, I think that is probably the reason. He's been around, and if he doesn't feel like he's going to be certainly, in the 2 deep, but maybe even starting, that he could be like, man, I can go somewhere else and get a lot more playing time. And so you could understand he's been around. I mean, he's, this is 5 years, so you can get it. He's had
Hey, Antoine's talking about, hey, Scar, give me that inside scoop, man. You're a former player. Talk to some of your boys. Antoine, there's, the loyalty never runs out, man. Anything old Scar here, there's some things I just cannot share, man. Just, I try to give you guys, but there are some things I am aware of, but I can never share it here. It's just loyalty, man.
Keep leaning on him, though. Keep leaning on him, Antoine. So once in a while he'll crack and something will spill. How about this question from Ferris? It's a pretty good one, Scar. Ferris says, do we need to worry about Bryce Underwood now that Nico Iamaleava is looking to get more money?
Well, that was a question that I've asked from day one. Because I always looked at the Dante Moore situation with UCLA. It's like, what did Chip Kelly and UCLA get for the million and a half they gave Dante Moore to go there and develop him as a freshman? They got nothing. They got Chip run out of town, and they got Dante Moore to transfer to Oregon, and they got nothing for it. So these agreements, they've got to be some type of a little more of an ironclad situation. You're going to just renegotiate. This kid, he wanted to talk money before the playoff game with Ohio State. I don't know if you read that, Denny, but that's something I read. I don't know if it's true.
Playoffs. I mean, last year he wanted more money right before
he wanted to squeeze them. He wanted to squeeze them for more money. This is what I read. Allegedly, that he wanted to squeeze Tennessee for more money before they played Ohio State and Columbus. So, as far as answering that question, Ferris, we would hope that Sharon Moore, Sean McGee, our leadership, our financial people, when you sit down with a kid, that there's a plan, there's a structure, there's a contract, there's a commitment. A coach should not be able to screw the kid, and the kid should not be able to screw the coach through a 2, 3, 4 year, whatever that kind of, however it's written up. But when you bring guys like Drew Rosenhaus into the mix, Denny, the old, he's been an agent forever. You bring those guys into the mix. Now, this kid Nico, he might end up with nothing. Let's see who steps up and offers them a bankroll. But I saw USC and Notre Dame. Those were schools I thought might be interested. There was one report said they are not interested. But to answer the question, you just, that's one of the things when you recruit a kid, Denny. Sharon Moore, when he sat down with Bryce Underwood and his parents, and they talked, Sharon Moore obviously is a smart, intelligent guy. This question would have been in the back of his mind. It'd be anybody's. It would be in anybody's head, in the back of their mind. Is this kid going to be loyal and stay here when things start to go well for him? So hopefully that they've agreed. That Sharon sized that question up before he committed that kind of money to this kid.
Yeah, I get everybody being against Nico, and I understand it. If I was a Tennessee fan, I'd be like, screw him. You can't let him hold you hostage. You're right about the contract. You got to look at the details there. And did they pay him too much too soon? And then he didn't have the money on the back end. And now he was thinking about somebody's offering him $4 million. One thing in it, and I saw that his dad, is involved, and people were saying it's his dad. And his dad saying, no, it's the agent. And look, if you have an agent out there, it'd been easy for Nico to say, look, I want to stay here. My agent was doing there's nothing wrong with asking for more money, for looking for more money, but anybody that's been in business and worked for somebody, if you're going to go in there and say, I'm leaving, unless you give me X amount of money, you got to be prepared to leave. I mean, that's the one thing that, that happens. You got to be able to go. Scar, I went to Michigan today, and they had linebacker coach Brian Jean-Marie was there, and he was asked this question. He coached at Tennessee, and so he gave about a minute response. Let's just listen to Michigan coach Brian Jean-Marie on the Nico Iamaleava situation.
And obviously, I have a strong opinion. Obviously, that's where I came from before coming here. And I think that situation was handled probably as best as it could. Knew Nico from recruiting. And then, obviously, I think the world of Coach Heupel. You hate to see situations go down like that. But, at the end of the day, college football is different than it was 5 years ago. It's really different than it was 2 years ago. I think the best answer for that is, there's a financial piece to everything in college football now, but you want to make sure, players are there because they want to be there. And, it's just like a job. There's jobs where you can, earn a good salary, and there's jobs where you're happy to show up every morning because you like being there, you like the people, and you like what you do. And I think that's what it's college, athletics is turning into too. there has to be more than just, the financial gains of it. You got to like the people that you're around, and, you got to really like showing up to work every day, and, the process of, getting better and trying to win as a team. And that's, coaches and players. I know the big argument is, coaches leave all the time, and, coaches can, take different jobs and everything. But it works the same with us. You want to be somewhere where you feel appreciated, and you want to work somewhere where, like I said, you can't wait to show up in the building that morning and, see what issues you can fix, and, what lives you can touch in a positive way. So I know that's a long answer, but I think that's the gist of it. I know, everybody wants to earn a good living, but you also want to make sure you're happy with it. It's a short life. You got to enjoy it while you're in it.
Denny, I'm trying to read into what he said and what he didn't say, but he indicated some things that might make you think that this kid, maybe his work ethic wasn't the best, or his team attitude wasn't the best. I don't know what role that is, but if he's trying to, so I guess that's the question Heupel should have figured out. Is this guy going to be a questionable guy down the line? So hopefully Sharon Moore, when he talked to Bryce Underwood and they said, look, man, this is what we got. And my job depends on it. You're going to count on me for the money. And we have an agreement that we can count on. Back before all this money, it was a unwritten rule. It was just understood. If a coach offers you a scholarship, you got a full scholarship for 4 years until you graduate. That was just understood. You didn't run guys off. Maybe you guys did, okay? But you could not just take a guy's scholarship. You ain't never going to go recruiting that kid's school again. So I guess we got to get to the point where if Michigan offers, if the Michigan agreement is $10 million for Bryce Underwood for 3 years, then Michigan can never screw him and say, you know what, you haven't developed like we thought you were. We're going to send you on down the road and, just pay you based on what we owe you at this point. That's not fair to the kid. So it's not fair to the kid to try to renegotiate, and it's not fair that the coach tries to run him out the door, before the end of the contract. So I think that's where we got to get to, that just like the old school scholarship commitment. It's like, hey, I brought you in. I'm going to honor it, whether you work out or not. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty tangled web. You think about a lot of the scenarios. What if Underwood comes out and he's great this year and he leads Michigan to the playoffs? What if he comes back as a sophomore and is even better than that? He's going into his third year. There might be a team that, throws, $10 million at him for 1 year. Is he going to give Michigan an opportunity? Is there going to be a renegotiation at that point? You would hope that if you have open lines of communication, if you're happy somewhere, you do have an agent saying, yeah, I can get you $2, $3, $4 more million, that they give Michigan an opportunity to, reach and to match any type of situation like that. I think that's what you want. And when you're having that conversation, like you talked with, not just the buyouts or whatever is going on in your contract, but you say, look, this money is all guaranteed to you, however we spoon feed it to you. But if you're going to go out and you have your agent and you want to go somewhere else, just talk to us first. And, Nico may have done that. And then, how it didn't seem like they had great lines of communication going there at Tennessee with that. It should have never got to a situation where he's sitting out a practice unless he's got a guarantee. You said that, you saw that UCLA or USC and Notre Dame already said no. But if he ends up with Coach Prime next week for $4 million a year, maybe he's played the game right. I saw people complaining, and I understand Tennessee fans saying, look, you can't let him run the place and he's no bigger and everything else. And, and there was someone else, Tennessee fan, saying, he's just scratching the surface with the kind of money that he can make when he's a pro. That's all true. But let's say he goes and plays for Coach Prime for $4 million, he's getting maybe 2-3 more than he would. And if he comes out and he performs and he plays, those NFL teams aren't going to hold that against him. I know it's the quarterback position and everything else, but they're not going to hold that against him. Cam Ward's going to get picked number 1. by Tennessee, and at halftime he just pieced out with all of his teammates at this year's bowl game. People were like, "Oh, that's going to cost him." That's not going to cost him. So I don't like it, but all the people that are talking about it's going to cost him. Not if he goes somewhere and he plays well, it's not going to cost him.
But then I don't know. There are some coaches, I dealt with college coaches for a long time coming into the building. I can see how tall he is. I can see how fast he is, athletic ability. I can see his grades and, but then we're going to get down to character. They're going to want to know about character and work ethic and all those things they can't see on film. And, it matters. It's still going to matter when, if Sharon Moore is looking at 3 quarterbacks, Bryce Underwood, blah, 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 these 2 other dudes, and they're all 5-star kids, and you bring them in, and you think you can win a Big Ten championship with all 3 of them, and you got money for all 3 of them, well, you're going to make your decision based on some things maybe I can't see on film. You know what I mean? And yeah. I think NFL general managers and coaches, I think they're going to look at the same thing too. Because hey, there's a lot of good quarterbacks coming out in this draft, right? A lot of good ones. I don't know how the hell they're going to, you hear all these different things about different guys, but character still matters. And,
yeah, well,
and that's what you have to figure out as a coach is which guy is going to put a gun to my head before we go to play the Buckeyes in a playoff game and says, I want more money. Now that's supposedly what he did. Okay.
Yeah, well, character it's a big word. If somebody has $4 million that is lined up and you're going to Tennessee and saying, hey, I got 4 and you guys give me 1.5. I don't know what all the particulars are, but I don't know if that's a character thing. Eli Manning, everybody loves Eli Manning and the Manning cast and everything else. He told San Diego to go blank themselves when they had the number 1 pick, forced to move and said, I'm not playing for you. Don't draft me. And the Giants did, and everybody's like, "Oh, we love Eli." Well, isn't that a gigantic character?
No, Danny, I don't put that on the same. I don't put that on the same level as the day before you're going to fly into Columbus. You say, "I want more money," opposed to somebody well in advance that gives them a chance to find a different quarterback. You're talking apples and oranges.
Well, you're right about the day before the Ohio State game is pretty wild. To go.
That's just screwing your whole team. You screw the whole freaking team.
That is.
You screw your teammates, everybody, the coaches, your teammates. If you tell them well in advance, I don't want to play in New York.
What about heading into spring? Let's say he was getting $1.5 million because he had, I think, 6 to when he was coming in. So you just kind of spread it out. Maybe it was $1.5 million. But let's say somebody was offering him $4 million and he was set to get $1.5 million this year from Tennessee. Do you think that's a character move by saying, look?
Oh, well, I understand that argument, Denny. I understand it. And that's why these contracts need to be written in a certain way, man. The kid doesn't want, let's say he gets hurt after 1 year, or he's just not that very good. He can't read coverages. He cracks under pressure, but you've committed to him. I mean, does that mean he's going to get screwed? You're going to quit paying him? You know what I mean? So I just think there needs to be some, an understanding of loyalty on both ends.
Here's a right in the Michigan wheelhouse for you, Scar, because Ferris is saying Michigan, get those 3 to 4 stars that beat Ohio State's 5 stars on the field and then got picked before him in the draft. And he said, players that want to develop will go to Michigan.
Yeah, it's one of many things that Ferris is talking about, guys that want to get developed, and it's one of many reasons players will pick a college. I got recruited by everybody, and you're looking at a lot of different things, and you've got your list. And guys that get put in the NFL, yes, that's going to matter. Guys that do I feel comfortable in the locker room? Do I like the coaches? Do I like the way they coach? Do I like the campus? Do I like the weather? And Michigan has a track record, and we're going to maintain it with Sharon Moore of a lot of guys getting drafted, man. So that stuff matters.
Here's the bag being dropped by Michigan Go Blue 1, 2, 3, 4. And he says maintaining culture and commitment to solely winning, not personal stats, etc., will become more and more challenging in the future with no NIL guidelines.
Yeah, maintaining culture. Yeah, it's a the juggling act for a head coach to maintain that locker room and that commitment to team culture of we care about each other. You know, when I think about culture, it's we care about each other, we fight for each other, we're team, and but you know, I think in the game of football, the guys that are thinking of taking and evaluating other players at other schools, you know what I mean? I never ever had a college coach ever say to me, how many tackles did that kid have? How many yards did that kid have rushing? How many completions did that kid have I never had the coaches don't really care about stats in those ways. They care about how tall is he, how fast is he, how athletic is he? You know, and some of those, sometimes your best players won't have many tackles. Mason Graham didn't have a lot of tackles. Kenny Grant, they play inside, they take on double teams. You know, it's how do you evaluate them? I played with Brad Cochran, you know, early round draft pick, All-American. No one threw at him. He didn't have any action as a cornerback. So, yes, I mean, there's a lot involved with to trying to answer that question. But yeah, the culture and the team with all this money, that's one of the many hats now Sharon Moore has to wear compared to Lloyd Carr. You know, Lloyd Carr, everybody got the same thing. Now you got to have many skills as a head football coach, head basketball coach.
Good stuff. What about this coach in waiting? You had that on this list.
Oh, Danny, you know, I'm gonna quickly on basketball. Looks like Dusty's bringing some studs in. Right now, if the big kid doesn't go pro, I saw somebody had us ranked number 1. I just saw Creighton, a guy that I really respect, the head coach at Creighton. They have a coach in waiting, the concept of a coach in waiting. I was kind of that as a guy and as a high school coach. I was kind of the coach in waiting, and I think it's a good thing. It lets the players know, the recruits know, and but you don't get to have a coach in waiting situation unless the guy who's there is a proven stud. You know what I mean? Because the guy at Creighton is a proven winner. He's been there a long time. So that's kind of what's his name? McDermott, right? Yeah. That's kind of a compliment to him that the leadership, the administration at Creighton is saying, okay, who do you want to replace you? And that's how they're going forward with it. I just think it's a good thing. It applies to, you see some people doing it in football too. And again, you don't get there unless you got a proven guy there. But I think it's good for recruits, kids looking at the program. They know what the hell they're going to be getting.
Yeah, Sharon was a coach in waiting.
Yeah, I mean, yes, he was. But it wasn't made public. You know, it wasn't made public, though. You know what I mean?
Well, I thought that we figured it out when he was going to go. Was it after 21 when he was gone to Minnesota for like 24, 48 hours? It looked like he was going to leave. And Josh Gaddis found out that he was not that coach that was going to be in waiting. And in fact, it was Sharon Moore that was going to be the coach there. So I think all the way back. So he had 2 years. And then, Harbaugh 2 years ago was essentially saying, Sharon Moore is the guy. He is the guy. Then, of course, he was the coach, for those 4 games when he was suspended. And then when Harbaugh came back and canonized him officially as a Michigan man, to me, it was a pretty sure thing at that point.
I want to finish up on what Ben Hall said. I'm trying to decipher the direction of our program based on some things the players are saying. Ben Hall said about our offense, ain't nothing different. That's what Ben Hall said. Big running back, fullback, tough, good player. He said there ain't nothing different. So that's what he said. He said he thinks we're going to be more explosive. So, and there's other players that said Michigan's offense will be more explosive. So what does that mean? Let's try to figure that one. Let's try to translate what that means, that it's going to be more explosive. Do the players think we have receivers that are big play guys. But again, we're going to take a look at that. There was another comment here. Ferris had a comment about comparing JJ to Drake May. You know, May racked up stats. JJ won a natty, six game, bigger than May. But, you know, that decision, if I'm drafting a quarterback and I got to decide, and Drake May went earlier, right? Drake May was drafted. He was drafted number 3. So, well, okay, we have to look at that and say, why did Drake May go before JJ McCarthy? Was it stats? Was it height? There's something that those coaches saw as to what they felt that Drake May would have. I don't know what the speed difference. I think JJ's probably quicker. Do they think Drake May is throwing a more accurate ball? We're not in that meeting when they talk to those guys, you know, and they size up his intelligence. I just know as a coach that those guys don't normally ask a lot about stats. They see the guy play, they see his athletic ability, they watch him throw a football. Now, you know, yeah, I guess you're going to look, you know, the completions, is it based on accuracy? But trying to decipher how those guys made that decision with Drake May and JJ McCarthy. You know, who's drafting too, Danny? You know, some guys sees things that other guys don't. But yeah, I don't even know if I have an answer to that question, man. All I'm telling you is I talked to these college coaches for many years that came into our school. Some of them loved this kid, and some of them thought he wasn't worth a damn. Some of them loved this other player I had, and they didn't think this guy was worth a damn. You know what I mean? So it's like looking at a pretty girl, man. We all don't have the taste in pretty girls. And college coaches and pro coaches, they're the same way. They look at a guy and they say, I don't like him. I don't like his speed. I don't like the way he walks. I had a college coach tell me that they didn't like his hips. It looked like he had stiff hips, one of my players. The hell does that mean, stiff hips?
Was he a corner?
He was a linebacker safety type kid. I thought anyway, yeah, but you just don't know what some of these guys are seeing, Denny. They all have different views and values about drafting and selecting players, and they're all over the place.
Yeah, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I don't think anybody that I saw had McCarthy ranked in front of Drake May. There are a few people that might not have had Drake May as in the top 5, but I didn't see anybody that had JJ. You know, Drake May for a couple of years. I think that because he played a lot, looked a lot, same height, same kind of attributes as Herbert with the Chargers, he kind of got pigeonholed. Like, look at him, this is it. And you know, the Patriots, he had a good rookie year. The Patriots, there's no buyer's remorse there. They love Drake May.
He's taller, isn't that that's the biggest issue with the two players, right? Isn't Drake May about 6?
Yeah, he's 6'5", and JJ.
Well, I think that's a big thing, Danny. They want guys that can look over the line of scrimmage, and I think they're sizing up the way he throws. When I watched Drake May, he looked like he threw a real catchable ball. Listen, I love JJ. I would make the argument from what I saw, everything JJ did. So anyway, it's a tough decision. Here's another question. A bunch of them are saying the offense is more explosive. Sounds fun, and I can't wait to see it. So yeah, explosive. That's going to be interesting. What does that mean? Are we gonna spread the field more and get more explosive runs? Do we have running backs that are going to get more explosive runs? Do we have receivers that are going to make guys miss and have more big gains?
What it means to me is that they have a quarterback that can challenge every inch of the field, that can make all the throws, including 50 yards down the field accurately. And they also have receivers that can go down there and get it. And that's what Justin, who drops a big bag on us, says with his feedback. He's talking about Jaden Davis. He says he's making good passes, and Browder catches everything. If we spread it out with our 2 6'5" wide receivers and then have Samaj Morgan and Fred Moore in the slot. So, yeah, Browder's the true freshman. He's 6'5". And then you got McCulley. Is he listed at 6'5"? So there's your two big men. Then he's talking about, Fred Moore's 6'1", so Samaj is a true slot guy. So I don't know if those are the four that you're going out talking about vertical, but when I hear all these players talking about it, to me is that you have the combination of bigger receivers, and I would also put Marsh, who's got the length. I think he's only listed at 6 feet, but he's got the wingspan and the physical traits where he can go out and maybe he would be like he's 6'3". But you got guys that can go after it and track the ball and catch it, and you have quarterback that can go out there and throw it.
Yeah.
So,
Denny, what I want to see from our offense, I want to see a run game that is you fear. I'm going to tell you what I don't want to face.
all right.
An offensive run game that is just physical, smart, tough, zone, gap. I don't want to face an offense where a quarterback can throw the ball with accuracy, receivers that can get open and make guys miss. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see tight ends that can get separation like which we've had. I don't want to face an offensive coordinator that gives me a bunch of headaches with shifting and motions and bullshit. Okay, so that's what I'm looking to see from old Chip. Because I think we're going to have the kind of the running backs, the offensive line. They're going to be coached up to be a physical run football team. But you also have to have the pass game so people can't load up on you like they did last year. So we need everything, Denny. You don't just when you stop a defense, you don't just stop one phase of an offense. You got to stop everything. Okay.
If I'm going to guess though, Scar, and Underwood, maybe he is just, he's just going to come out of the chute and he's going to be throwing the ball 70 yards down. I don't think so. I think he's going to win the job, but I think early on is all of the non-conference slate, including at Oklahoma, at Nebraska, even the Wisconsin game. I don't think Underwood, they're going to be putting everything on his right arm and saying, hey, let's go and challenge every inch of the field. I think it's going to be more like it was last year where they are running the ball and then they'll pick their spots with him until he gets up and running. I mean, is he going to be up and running by game 2 where he's just going to be, turning everyone's heads? I know it's what everybody hopes, everybody wants, but
Danny, if he's starting game 1, they're going to let that kid. We got a great schedule.
Let it rip.
We have a great schedule if you're going to start a true freshman. Okay, we got a great schedule. It's good because those are non-league games. We get a home game against a lamb chop, and you treat him like a 5th-year senior. You do everything. You ask everything. You run it, throw it, and then we go to Oklahoma and we get challenged on the road. And those aren't Big Ten games. So what if we stumble there? We get ready for game 4 against Nebraska. I mean, it's a good. I'm just keeping it real. I think it's a good situation. If you are going to start a true freshman at quarterback.
Well, I think the last 2 years at Harbaugh, where they had nothing but, complete walkovers in those first 3 games, that's a better situation than going on the road at Oklahoma for a true freshman.
No, I get it. You're right. I'm looking at some of these questions. Oklahoma's personal for more. But, Danny, what else is going on? How about the Broncos winning the national championship in hockey with hardly any NIL money? Hardly any NIL money compared to Big Ten teams. Those guys are getting scholarships. Some of them are not, all of them are not getting scholarships at Western Michigan. I wanted to point that out because you got Big Ten teams that got a hell of a lot more money, Michigan being one of them. And Western Michigan won a national championship in hockey.
Yeah, well, Michigan just got TJ Hughes back, and that was an NIL move for U of M. So that was pretty good for Brandon Naurato, and they got Hage back, and he was a first-round pick for Montreal. So I would imagine that he got a little NIL. I would like to look at Western's composition of their team. That they have a senior-laden team. It's one of these things. Michigan gets the highest quality players, Michigan hockey, but a lot of these guys, they're coming in, they're 17 years old. I think about, Draper that came in, and how young some of these other guys are that were out there. One of the youngest teams in hockey, and then after a year they're gone. If you're a team like Western, are these guys all growing up together? Kind of like we saw some mid-majors in basketball that could make a run in the past. Is that what was going on with Western? I don't know. I didn't break down their lines and the roster to see if that was the kind of situation that they were in. But it's great to see for the state of Michigan to see a directional like Western Michigan go out there and win a national championship. Didn't get any better than that.
Denny, it gets back to the same thing. Bill Seif said it about 3 years ago when he won that national championship at Kansas in basketball. It's the same thing in football, basketball, hockey. He said there's two things to winning in the current state of athletics here. It's like get old and stay old. Okay, you ain't winning with young guys. So that I think that applies there. But
well, no
Danny,
true. Go ahead. I was going to say no true freshman played in the national championship game in basketball. So I did remember seeing that.
No, you're right. Those are all, Houston was all 22, 23-year-old men. A world of difference, man. World of difference. Couple years in the weight room, but I'm fired up for Saturday, man. Denny, I'm on the fence. I know you and Jerry are going to be in the house.
Oh.
And, I'm looking at Chip, man. I want to see Chip. I want to see Chip give our offense stuff that you just, Denny, when you got 4 and 5 star kids and the enemy has 4 and 5 star kids, you just can't say I'm going to just be vanilla and just try to pound you. Okay, that doesn't work like that. You got to fool people, man. So I want to see Chip giving our offense, challenging our players mentally to have a creative offense that makes defenses think, gets them confused, gives our players an advantage. You always heard me talk about why we beat Penn State all them years, because we fooled Manny Diaz. We outcoached Manny Diaz. And I want to get back to outcoaching guys and not just asking guys to just, be better, a 4-star to be better than their 4-star. Sometimes you got to help your players out with scheme and bullshit. Smoke and mirrors, Denny, it matters.
I want Underwood throwing the ball all over the lot. Dots and bombs. That's what I want to see. That's what I'm hoping to see.
Listen, man, perfect situation against New Mexico, man. I mean, he's been slinging it for 4 years at Belleville. And they're, he's at 15 practices. He'll have more practices in the fall. And he's a big, strong kid. His confidence level is it ain't like no damn freshman when I was coming in, in August. He's been through it, man. He's a 4-year starter in high school, 15 practices. He'll be there all summer. He's going to be, his mental state will be a lot different than, a typical freshman.
All right. Sounds great.
But Denny, it's a great day. Weather's great. Big day, but great day for a college football player. Maybe I'll see you down there Saturday and fire it up, man.
All right. So long.